70 years ago, it was 1951. Most popular TV show was I Love Lucy. You could buy a new house for $9,000 and the price of gasoline was 19 cents per gallon. It was also 70 years from when the people of Judah were exiled and taken to Babylon. You had to talk to an old person to find out what life was like back before the exile. There was incredible excitement, incredible fear. What would they find when they got back? Who would have taken over the land? Would any of their ancestral properties still be intact? Would they have a place to live? Would they have a place to worship? And this is the story of the book of Ezra. It's amazing how politics plays a role in world events, even with the people of God, that God would use somebody like Cyrus to bring his people back. But there were other kings. Xerxes, Artaxerxes, Darius, none of them lasted very long. They were simply pawns for God's purposes. The kingdom of God always overlaps, always overrules the kingdoms of this earth. It's the very same message in the book of Revelation, where the contest is between God and his kingdom and people in their kingdom. Ultimately, God always wins out. And thank God, because the kingdom of God is a merciful place that's permanent, it's eternal, and it's a place ruled by love. It's a place where exiles can return with confidence because they're made right. I want you to stop and think about your life 70 years ago, and for most of us, there's nothing to think about. And so go back a generation. Think about your parents. What were they doing in 1951? Were they born yet? What was their life like? And think about this awesome, unbelievable shock of being a people returning to their homeland after all that time. A friend of mine told me that the promised land is very much like Southern California, ocean to the west, coastline, mountains, and then desert to the east. Imagine returning to that after being stuck in the desert for so many years. But any kind of exile that we're in, just like with God's people, is temporary. Eventually we get to the promised land. Even if we trip and turn away, we come back and God brings us to the place of promise. And it's a time of wonder, it's a time of fear, but ultimately it's a time of rejoicing.
I remember our victory